Today we are going to analyze why democracy has failed, right? Democracy and its promises: equity, economic development, fairness, equality, the list goes on. But we can say, especially in Nigeria where we are, that democracy has not delivered on its promises. The term democracy was first coined in the city of Athens in Greece. It is taken from a word demokratia, which means demos and kratos. Demos means people, kratos means rule. So democracy means the people rule, the people determine the legislature that governs them. Now, democracy left Athens and went around Greece. But a city called Sparta made some changes to the way Athens ran their own democracy. In Athens, men under 20 were not allowed to vote, women were not allowed to vote, and slaves were not allowed to vote. So originally, democracy still had its unfairness, especially in terms of gender. You know how we feel about that thing in 2020. But in Sparta, they had a different way of voting, right? On every issue, people had to shout. So their kind of voting was based on shouting. When you say those in favor of, they say aye. You've seen that thing in the House of Rep or Senate. That's where they got it from, Sparta. And the reason why Sparta did this was because they felt democracy in Athens was a bit corrupt. Who knows? That even from the very start, democracy was corrupt, right? They felt that people used to sell their votes and lobby in between sessions, and so they wanted people to vote on the spot by shouting. So originally, democracy had its loopholes from the beginning. So if you have the mindset that democracy is a perfect system of government, think again. So democracy went around Greece, then left Greece, and it went to Rome. Especially when the Romans conquered everybody, they adopted some things from Greece, right? But you see, the kind of democracy that the Romans practiced was quite diabolical in a sense. But you can't blame them, because Athens, it was a city in Greece, and in Greece, each city has their own autonomy of government. But you see, for the Roman Empire, it had to be a central system. So already you have more people involved because the Roman Empire was very vast. And then instead of having individuals coming to have a say in the system, they now had to elect representatives, right? That's part of what we are going through around the world today. Not everybody can always sit down and deliberate on issues. So that's why we elect, representatives into the house, lower house, upper house, depending on which country you are in. But you see where the Romans played a very diabolical trick. It's called gerrymandering. It is a system where district boundaries are rigged to favor some people, a party or a group of people. In the sense that, picture the Roman Empire, right? Then Rome, city of Rome, they can break the city of Rome into like 20 districts. And perhaps there are only 35 seats in the House of Rep. Rome alone will be broken into 20 districts so that Rome can, present more people in the House of Parliament, while the rest of the Roman Empire, no matter how large it is, will be broken into what, 15? Let's see. It means that when legislation is being made in the House of Parliament, Rome will have more say because it has been able to provide more representatives. So the Romans did this so that the rich families and the influential people in Rome will have more people in Parliament to decide issues. Now, after a while, several years, the Roman Empire fell and kingdoms broke out from the Roman Empire, right? One of these kingdoms is England, the Kingdom of England. It was ruled by a king. But something unique happened. The king started having problems with some people called barons. They were wealthy men who had servants and huge, massive land and properties. They helped the king to break out from the Roman Empire. But now they were having problem with the king, in the sense that they felt the king was placing too much taxes and burden on them. So they began to rebel against the king, and thus the sense of democracy was coming back into the picture. But something happened. The king fought back, and for centuries, this was around the 12th century, something happened from then. For several centuries, the descendants of these barons and the descendants of the crown kept struggling. They fought wars, civil wars, and nobody could reach an agreement. So in the 17th century, these barons and their families, and a lot of them who had money and ships, decided they were going to leave England and look for a better place to set up their colonies. And so they left England and went to where? America. Now, on reaching America, they set up a colony. They started to farm. Slave trade came in. These wealthy men decided to build a system for themselves. Although the British tried to, colonize them, they fought, they gained independence. Their descendants, these rich men, came together, formed what we now call democracy, modern democracy. Was democracy fought by rich men? It was fought for by rich men, for rich men. They set up a system that protected them and their wealth. And so the Kingdom of England decided, they had to react to this. They made, to prevent people from leaving England further, they decided to embrace the people that were left. So the Kingdom of England and the Northern Kingdom came together to form the United Kingdom, and they also created a parliament where the people can be represented, as well as the crown can be represented. So that's why the democracy system in England is a bit different from a lot of countries, because the democracy that most countries have gotten is taken from where? America. And that is a democracy that was fought for by the rich, for the rich. That is why Nigeria got independence in 1960 from the British. But in 1999, we embraced democracy. And so what kind of democracy did we embrace? Was it that of the British? Was it that in Athens? Or was it that of the Americans? Now, there's no need to stress it. We know we got our democracy from America. So we are emulating America, a democracy for the rich. That is why, if you notice, it feels like the poor have no say in how the country is operated or run or managed. If you notice, ever since democracy left Greece, the poor people have had no say. Since the Romans till now, the poor people have had no say. Why poor people or the masses could have a say in Greece was because each city had autonomy of its own, and the population in each city wasn't so much. When it got to Rome, they had to practice a centralized government because of the population and the size of Roman Empire. Now imagine countries with populations of millions, 20 million, 60 million, 200 million, as the case may be. Now, you can't really practice that kind of democracy that was in Greece, because now you have a more centralized government. So already we've identified issues with democracy. It's an old ideology, started a long time ago. An ideology started in a smaller scale of people, smaller population, and it's an ideology that has given room for, it has gone through process of, remodeling. Now we have a democracy that favors the wealthy. Now, how do the wealthy rig the system for themselves? Now we go back to what the Romans did, gerrymandering. It's a very dark art. In the case of Nigeria, when we got independence and when we got our democracy, most of the wealthy people in Nigeria have always come from the north. Most of the elites at that time when we got our democracy were from the north. Some regions were not well represented, right? So it's only obvious to see why since then they have rigged the system to favor the north. If you're a Nigerian, you understand what I'm saying, definitely. How did gerrymandering work in Nigeria? If you go to our Senate, right, every state has 3 representatives, so it's equal. But where the power imbalance comes is in the House of Rep. Some states have as little as 5, Bayelsa. Some states have as much as 24, Lagos. And some states like Katsina, I think, let me check the number. Katsina has about 15, Kano has 24, Kaduna has 16, Kebbi has 8, Ekiti has 6. It's not a balanced system in the House of Rep, and this is where policies swing. It's equal in the Senate, but in the House of Rep, it's not equal. It's highly in favor of some certain places. And this is because at the time we got our democracy, these are the regions that produce most of the elites that were around to lobby for positions in the House of Rep. Now, how is this affecting us? Let me give an example. 2 presidents out of 4 have come from Katsina, right? And they have 15 representatives in the House of Rep. They have a lot of wealthy elites, powerful families from Katsina over time. Now, how has this been in their favor? In 2018, Katsina was ranked among the lowest 10 states with internally generated revenue. But in 2019, Katsina was ranked among the top 10 states with government allocation. A state that produced little getting much. Why? Because they have more people lobbying in the House and in government on their behalf. That is one of the products of gerrymandering, where it is unfavorable to some regions. Now, another way it has cost us, if you check the House, like in 2019, the House were given 100 billion naira to share. The Senate kept 40, the House of Rep kept 60, because the House of Rep have more members. Now, when they were sharing this money, if the mathematics done was such that almost every House of Rep member or every representative had about 200 million to go back to his constituency to do what? Implement local projects, local development projects. Now imagine a state like Bayelsa only have 5 people and Lagos has 24, which means Lagos will have more local development projects than Bayelsa. Now some states like Kebbi and other states that might be way larger than Lagos have just 8. The effect of this economically is that it will put a spanner in the wheel of our diversification project of our economy, in the sense that most of the states who have little representation are where tourism can grow, agriculture can grow, but they are not well represented when policies are made. Meanwhile, a state like Lagos that promotes more of importation and some, you can't do farming in Lagos because the land is small. It's one of the smallest states. Tourism is not really effective in Lagos. Hospitality might not really be effective in Lagos. But you see, Lagos has 24 House of Rep members coming back to implement projects. And you know that it's the House of Rep members that know better what problems lie, which streets need fixing, which street needs to be tarred, where the economy of a locality is central. It is the House of Rep member that knows these details. And so when a state like Bayelsa only has 5 and a state like Lagos has 24, you know that development will be more in Lagos, and the consequence is that Lagos will attract more population than it should have. It has affected our population demography. It has affected our ability to do what? Diversify the economy. Why? Because some regions are not well represented. Now, having said that, democracy is not a totally bad idea. It's only that the democracy that we practice, it needs to be restructured. For it to have the potency it had in Greece, more power needs to be handed to the people. Presently, the power in democracy, especially in Nigeria, is too centralized. So how do you hand over power to the people? First of all, you give equal representation in the House of Rep. Then secondly, you take some of the power vested centrally and give it to the House of Rep members in terms of monetary and finance to execute projects, because they know better at the grassroots level what is needed. But then you give the people power to audit their House of Rep, to impeach, remove, replace the House of Rep, so that the people then have more power in the say, or more say in how their economy or their environment or their society is being run. That is the way I think our democracy can work in our favor, so that local projects and diversification, agriculture, tourism, or whatever aspect of our economy that is peculiar to a specific region can boom. But until we do that, some regions will be more favored. Some regions will keep developing and become overpopulated, while some regions will get neglected. And we will not reap the benefits that we are supposed to reap from democracy.